Imagine stepping onto a plane, finding your seat, and looking around with curiosity. Everything seems calm and ordinary in the cabin, but just a few steps away, behind a locked door, lies a completely different world, the cockpit. A place filled with switches, screens, codes, and secrets. For most of us, the cockpit is a mysterious space. We only see it for a brief second when boarding or leaving the plane. But what actually happens inside? Why do pilots have rituals and rules we never hear about? And what truths are kept away from passengers to ensure every flight feels calm and normal? Today, we're pulling back the curtain and stepping inside the cockpit, revealing 5 surprising secrets pilots rarely talk about. From why they don't eat the same food as passengers, to how autopilot works far more than you might think. Some of these facts will completely change the way you see your next flight. So, fasten your seatbelt and stay with us until the end, because once you learn these secrets, you'll never look at flying the same way again. And hey, if you enjoy discovering the hidden side of aviation, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. That way, you won't miss the incredible stories we share every week. Let's step into the cockpit. Most passengers think the pilot's job begins when the plane takes off. But in reality, safety starts even before the first passenger steps onto the aircraft, and it's often hidden in small, unnoticed details. One of those details: the food pilots eat. You might assume that pilots get served the same meals as everyone else on board. After all, they're human too, right? But here's the surprising truth: pilots are not allowed to eat the same meal as each other, or as passengers. Why? Because of one word: food poisoning. Imagine for a moment, hundreds of passengers in the air, 35,000 feet above the ground. The entire safety of that flight depends on the 2 people sitting in the cockpit. If both pilots happen to eat the same contaminated meal, say, chicken gone bad, that flight could quickly turn into a disaster. That's why airlines enforce a strict rule: the captain and the first officer must eat different meals. If one meal is compromised, only one pilot risks getting sick, while the other stays fit to fly. Some airlines even go further: they serve the captain from the business class menu and the first officer from the economy menu, just to ensure variety. Here's another layer most passengers never notice: pilots usually eat before the passengers. Meals are brought to the cockpit earlier, so the crew has time to test if the food seems safe. If something tastes odd or causes discomfort, they'll immediately switch to backup snacks, rather than risk eating more. And here's the curiosity gap: sparkles. What do pilots actually think about airplane food? Many admit they often avoid it altogether. Some bring their own carefully packed meals from home. Sandwiches, salads, energy bars, anything they trust more than the catering. In fact, a surprising number of pilots confess they rarely eat the warm meals passengers receive. It's such a simple detail, but it reveals a bigger truth: aviation safety is built not only on machines, but also on human health. Every little precaution, right down to what's on the dinner tray, matters when lives are in the balance. So, next time you hear the cart rolling down the aisle and wonder if the pilots are eating the same pasta or chicken as you, remember, chances are, they're not. And they're doing it to keep you safe. When most passengers hear the word autopilot, they imagine a system that flies the plane from takeoff to landing without human help, like a car on cruise control, but smarter. Some even believe pilots are just button pushers, sitting back and relaxing while the computer does all the work. But here's the reality: autopilot isn't magic, it's just a tool. Autopilot can control altitude, direction, and speed, but it does only what the pilots program it to do. Think of it like a highly advanced assistant. If the weather changes, if turbulence gets worse, or if something unexpected happens, the pilots, not the autopilot, must step in. In fact, pilots spend years training to master every possible scenario without autopilot. Aviation rules even require them to regularly fly the plane manually during takeoff or landing, just to stay sharp. Many experienced pilots will tell you, the machine helps, but the human is always in charge. Here's something passengers rarely know: autopilot doesn't mean pilots are free to nap or watch movies. They're constantly monitoring the systems, communicating with air traffic control, calculating fuel, and preparing for possible emergencies. Every few minutes, they're checking and cross-checking instruments, even when the autopilot is flying straight and smooth. And here's a surprising fact: autopilot can't land at most airports. Yes, some advanced systems allow autoland, but only under very specific conditions, usually in bad weather at major international airports equipped with the right technology. For the vast majority of flights, it's still the human pilots who land the plane safely. Now imagine this: you're flying at night over the ocean, thousands of miles from land. The stars are bright, the cabin is quiet, and everything feels calm. But in the cockpit, the pilots are wide awake, making sure the autopilot follows the exact route, adjusting to winds, checking fuel balance, and running mental scenarios of what if. So next time you hear someone say, planes basically fly themselves, you'll know the truth. Autopilot is just one piece of the puzzle. The real safety of your flight comes from the two trained professionals sitting in the cockpit, ready to take control in an instant. Here's something few passengers ever imagine: while you're watching movies or trying to sleep in your seat, the pilots might also be sleeping, just not where you think. On long-haul international flights, regulations require pilots to rest. Flying for 10, 12, or even 15 hours straight without breaks would be unsafe. But where do they go? Surely not in the cockpit chair, right? The answer is fascinating. Many large aircraft, like Boeing 777s or 787 Dreamliners, are built with secret sleeping quarters hidden away from passengers' eyes. These rest areas are often tucked above the cabin, behind locked doors, or near the cockpit. You'd walk right past them without ever noticing. Inside, it looks nothing like the cockpit. Instead, there are narrow bunk beds, soft lighting, curtains for privacy, and sometimes even a small seating area. It's like a miniature hotel room, hidden inside the airplane. Here's how it works: while one group of pilots flies the plane, the other rests. They rotate shifts, ensuring that there are always two alert and focused pilots at the controls. This way, by the time the plane approaches landing, after a grueling 10-hour flight, there's still a fresh, well-rested captain ready to take charge. And it's not just pilots. Flight attendants on ultra-long flights also have their own hidden rest areas, usually tucked above the passenger cabin. For the crew, these secret spaces are the only chance to recharge before another round of service, safety checks, and helping passengers. Passengers are almost never allowed inside, but here's a little detail from crew members: the spaces are tiny. If you're expecting luxury, think again: it's more like crawling into a capsule hotel. Still, after hours of standing and working, those bunks feel like heaven. Now imagine, while you're dozing in your economy seat, just a few meters above your head, the very people flying your plane might also be fast asleep, so they can be sharp, calm, and ready when you need them most. It's a reminder that flying is a team effort, carefully planned so that fatigue never gets in the way of safety. Flying a plane isn't just about pressing buttons and reading screens. Communication is everything. But here's a secret: not all communication in the cockpit or with cabin crew is spoken out loud. During critical moments, like takeoff, landing, or turbulence, pilots and crew often use special hand signals and coded phrases that most passengers never notice. Why? Because silence, speed, and precision can sometimes be safer than words. For example, in the cockpit, pilots use standard aviation phrases that sound strange to outsiders. Instead of saying, yes, they might say, affirmative. Instead of, no, they say, negative. This avoids any chance of confusion during stressful moments. Even a single misunderstood word could have consequences, so everything is standardized. But here's the fascinating part: when talking to flight attendants, pilots sometimes use discreet hand gestures. A raised finger might mean, wait, a nod toward the cabin could signal, check the doors, and even subtle eye contact can communicate volumes. On the cabin side, attendants themselves have a silent system. For example, when walking through the aisles, they sometimes tap each other on the arm or shoulder to quietly share information without alarming passengers. It could be something as simple as, this passenger needs help, or as serious as, watch seat 14C carefully. One former flight attendant even shared that when turbulence is expected, the cockpit crew often gives a subtle hand signal before making an announcement. That way, attendants have a few seconds to brace themselves before the cabin gets rough. Passengers think it's all happening in real time, but in truth, there's a hidden choreography happening behind the scenes. Another layer to this is the sterile cockpit rule. During taxi, takeoff, and landing, pilots avoid unnecessary conversation altogether. No jokes, no small talk, only essential instructions. It's like an invisible curtain drops over the cockpit, keeping the crew laser-focused until the plane is safely cruising. So, while you hear calm voices over the intercom, what you don't see is a silent language of nods, signals, and precise words, keeping the team in sync and the passengers safe. It's a secret world of communication that passengers rarely witness, yet it's happening on every single flight. If you've ever boarded a plane, you've probably noticed that heavy, gray cockpit door at the front. It looks ordinary, but here's the truth: that door is one of the strongest barriers in the entire aircraft, built to withstand almost anything. After the tragic events of 9/11, aviation security changed forever. Cockpit doors were completely redesigned to become bulletproof, reinforced, and electronically locked. Today, they're so strong that even if someone used tools or brute force, breaking through would be nearly impossible while the plane is in flight. The locking system is just as fascinating. The door works with a multi-layered security mechanism. Pilots inside control access with switches, while outside crew members must enter a special code to even request entry. But here's the twist: the pilots can override that request instantly. If there's any suspicion, the cockpit stays sealed, no matter what. In fact, tests have shown that these doors can resist explosions, heavy impacts, and even sustained assaults. It's like having a vault door flying at 35,000 feet. But here's something most passengers don't realize: the door isn't just about keeping people out, it's also about keeping pilots safe from sudden depressurization or fire in the cabin. It's reinforced not only against human threats but also against extreme flight conditions. Even flight attendants don't casually walk in. There's a strict protocol for entering the cockpit during flight. For example, when one pilot needs a restroom break, attendants must secure the aisle, follow security signals, and coordinate timing to ensure the door is open for only a few seconds. It's a carefully choreographed dance that passengers almost never notice. One aviation security expert even said, "If you're on a commercial flight today, the cockpit is probably the safest room you could ever be in, stronger than most bank vaults." So the next time you see that door, remember, it isn't just a piece of metal. It's a guardian shield, protecting the pilots, the passengers, and the flight itself. Every flight might feel routine, but behind the calm smiles of the crew and the smooth announcements from the cockpit, there's a world of secrets, protocols, and unseen challenges. From oxygen masks that only give you minutes to act, to reinforced doors that could withstand almost anything, flying is far more extraordinary than it appears. And maybe that's the real magic of aviation, the fact that so much complexity and risk is hidden behind a seamless experience, allowing passengers to simply sit back, relax, and watch the clouds drift by. So the next time you hear the seatbelt sign ding, or see the cockpit door open for a split second, you'll know, there's a fascinating story waiting behind every detail of your flight. If you enjoyed uncovering these hidden truths of the skies, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon, so you don't miss the next journey into the mysteries of aviation. Because trust me, this was only the beginning.